So, Merrick, what approaches do you take with clients who have health issues such as cardiovascular disease or they suffer from clinical obesity?
Hmm. So obviously, like in my opinion, you gotta take every client as a case by case. Like whether someone's obese, or they have type 2 diabetes. Like for example, if someone has type 2 diabetes, they don't necessarily have to be obese, right? So like when we think about people with health conditions, we have to meet them where they're at. I guess the best example would be I've had a client who had like well, I have two clients, right? One of them has a really bad ankle inversion, and the other one has no knees. Okay, wait, I'm getting way too far down the line. Let's restart.
No, no, you don't have to. No, no
No,
restarting.
no,
You can just
no,
keep
no.
going.
Let's restart. All right, ask me the question again. I was
Okay.
like, hold on. Now I'm getting into corrective exercise. All right, go back, go back, go back, go back.
All right. So, Merrick, what approaches do you typically take with clients, specifically in danger with health conditions such as cardiovascular disease and clinical obesity?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think this is something that a lot of people get wrong. When it comes to people with like health conditions, especially things that as personal trainers, we're not necessarily like in our scope of practice to completely treat them, especially if they're on medication and stuff. We have to proceed with caution in these conditions, right? So I always would err on the side of caution and just moving through slowly. It should be in a progressive scheme where we're starting off slowly, but slowly building capacity. I guess a good example of this would be obviously if somebody is not fit. Like they have no history of cardiorespiratory problems. We need to like meet them where they're at instead of just throwing them into the fire. I'm not gonna have them just jump on the fan bike and give me 3 10-second all out sprints on the fan bike with 5 second rest. I mean that just sounds like I'm trying to kill them. I think it's important to like start them slow, see what they can handle, and then slowly build up from there. So in the case of someone with a condition, especially one that we're not um, supposedly treating per se, but we're at least aware of their condition and what medications they could be on, it's always best to just like go slow, see what they can handle, and then even if you're not comfortable pushing them super hard, let's say somebody's 75 years old and they have a health or a heart condition, they've already had heart surgery, we don't need to get them to the point where they can run a 7 minute mile. You know, we just need to get them to a point where, okay, can we get your heart rate up to 60% of your max? That would be a great accomplishment for them.
Absolutely.
So
So just
I guess that's how I'd answer that question.
yeah, meeting them where they're at, kind of going case by case instead of just having this one size fits all, right? It's got to be individualized and personalized to scale with every person.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
going off of that, how would you kind of guide a client whose approach doesn't actually align with their goals? So say, for example, someone wants to lose 20 pounds, but their approach is like, oh, like I'll exercise 2 times a week, but yeah, 3 times a week I'll probably go out and go get fast food, because I just feel like it. I mean, I can figure it out, right? Calories in, calories out.
Yeah, so I mean, it's something you learn as a personal trainer, and it's better to learn this when you're young rather than like late into your career. Well, actually, I would say most people that figure this out early tend to be a lot more successful than the ones that figure it out late, because the ones that don't figure it out usually don't stay in the industry. But if you figure out that you don't have to work with everyone that doesn't align with your beliefs, that's going to set you apart a lot more because when you choose to not work with someone, okay, so let's say somebody doesn't agree with tracking their calories, but that's something you truly believe in. We can give it a go. And I'm going to give them a chance because everybody deserves a chance. Like I'm never going to turn anybody away that truly wants to work on their health and fitness, right? If I tell them, look, I think we need to start tracking our calories. We've been trying to do this for 8 weeks and it's just not working. Like, we need to see a little bit of data in order to make any real progress. And let's say they choose to still not start doing any of that. I don't have to keep working with them because at some point it's going to take more out of me, more out of my energy, more out of my reputation as a coach to keep working with that person than if I was to just work with people that were willing. Like, when you're a coach, you start to develop a reputation of your clients, right? If you're one of your philosophies is tracking calories, then that's just what you do as a coach, right? And so it's like it shouldn't, although it should be a case by case, you can help people using the same philosophies. And I feel like that's truly important. So if somebody doesn't want to do your approach, that's totally fine. Maybe there's a coach out there that will perfectly fit their approach. But, as uh, someone who's really focused on the results and the client's goals, I don't want to tell them I can do something for them and then not be able to. So that's why if they're not following your philosophies or your approach, maybe it's not a right fit, and you don't always have to work with them. And it's not you being mean. It's saying, look, maybe there's somebody better out there for you. But maybe I'm not that person, and it takes a lot of maturity to like accept that and tell them that as well.
Absolutely, because a lot of this comes with financial gain involved, and when you start getting finances involved, it makes things a little tricky. So I absolutely see that, no question. It's really about making the client's needs met, and even if that's guiding them into a different coach
Mhm.
aspect or a different person to coach them, that would be the right way to go. Going off of that, what are your core beliefs when it comes to training individuals?
Yeah, well, I spoke a little bit about it already, but I will say I usually like to split my clients into three levels. This kind of follows precision nutrition's training philosophy as well. But there's level one, level two, and level three. Level one really focuses on just like general habit building and lifestyle. And I think this is where most clients should stay. As you go through the levels, it gets more and more advanced. Like, I would say right now, I probably don't have any level three clients. But a level three client is someone who's basically autonomous. They can pretty much do it all themselves. They just need you for the like the really small stuff and like the little micromanagement stuff. And that can be a lot as a coach to also do. So like most of my clients are level one for sure. I have a couple in level two. But you gotta like be able to organize your clients based on their needs. So I always send them a survey pretty much every 2 months, probably about every quarter, where we just kind of like recap how everything's going, ask if they need any changes, ask if they need more communication or less communication. You gotta like keep the communication with your clients like very high in order to like really make sure that, well, one, that you're on par with your core beliefs of like, okay, are we following the outline or the protocol that I have to get you to your goal? And if not, how do we get back to that? So my I would say one of my biggest core beliefs is like structure your clients in a way that makes sense and that's easy to like understand who they are as people. I don't think it's as simple as just like type A, type B, but like having some kind of understanding of who they are as people will definitely help in your decision making as a coach for sure.
Absolutely, and that kind of takes away the idea that all this is just a training program and a meal plan, right? You
Oh,
actually have to become accustomed to your client because otherwise you don't get to know them as a person and what works for them. And if that's the case, you're not going to achieve the results you want to achieve unless you meet somebody that acts as if they're a robot, right? Because they aren't a robot. That's a thing. They aren't. They all have personalities, and your approach can actually successfully help their personality as long as you know them.
movement. The second one being recovery, and then the third one being I can't think of it, nutrition. Cut that out. Yeah, the three pillars, which are recovery, nutrition, and movement, or R and M. Basically, like these three things help make a like basically determine whether or not we're going to make progress. If one of them is out of whack or out of line, then it's going to be really hard to like make progress to our goal. So, I think that's an extremely important point to just make sure we're getting right. Is we got to be on top of all three. If one of them starts to go, then we just like make small corrections as we can. And they're not always going to be perfect. These things are very dynamic, always moving up and down. So, uh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you ever had any clients talk about problems with former coaches, like issues, whereas if they actually had to leave their coach and then move on to you?
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes back to the second question we talked about, where sometimes it's just not a right fit. And for a lot of clients, they just like don't understand that it's not a right fit and they stick with the coach for maybe a little bit too long. And then, let's say they move or something happens where they need to change locations or change, maybe their coach leaves or whatever. And then they like get a new coach and then it's a much better experience and it's a better fit. And, you know, it's a little sad because I think it could have been a much better experience for the client and they could have made a lot more progress if there was more communication with the previous coach. So something I wish that a lot more clients knew is just like if you don't feel like you're making enough progress or communicating enough, I mean, you just need to talk to your coach. Like that is what they're there for. If you cannot have a conversation with your coach about the progress you're making, then something is clearly wrong. You need to like be open. You need to have that conversation. Are we moving good? Like that's why I do those quarterly recaps because it's extremely important to be in touch with your client, know how they're feeling about the training, so that way you can make corrections if you need to.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anybody who doesn't know this, this is actually a term called deep level coaching. So it's having the ability to know your client on a deeper level. There's fancy keywords like biopsychosocial. That's a big term, and something like precision nutrition's module on nutrition coaching. But at the end of the day, it's simply just trying to communicate with your client and figuring out who they are, both physically, emotionally, and as a person biologically, how they think, how their mind ticks, you know. And so, with this idea of holistic coaching and deep level coaching, do you think it can kind of save people's lives? I know that sounds kind of dramatic, but not in the sense that they're literally dying and being pulled out of a car that's underwater, or they have concrete bricks on their foot and you're untying for them, but more so as like you're pushing them and guiding them in the right direction for the rest of their lives with deep level coaching.
I mean, anybody that's a coach knows and has seen it literally transform people's lives. Like, it's absolutely incredible what we get to do, and I couldn't be more grateful actually to develop this as a passion. It's got to be one of the best jobs in the world to watch somebody grow, to fix somebody's lower back pain, to get someone's A1C levels under control, to, I mean, help somebody walk straight. Like, it's incredible. Not only are we and I'm not saying that we have the credentials for this, but not only are we the physical therapists, not only are we the nutritionists, not only are we the therapists, the psychiatrists. It's like when you choose to work with people, all those things are involved. When you talk about biopsycho, oh wait,
You had it, yeah.
yeah, biopsychosocial environments, like that we are that like you are working with someone one on one most of the time, even if it's in a group setting, you still have the same effect. You're a leader. You have to be the authority in the space. You have to lead them. And if you're a good leader, you're leading them to a better lifestyle, a more healthy and fulfilled life. When I'm training my clients, we're not just working out, resting, and not saying anything. We're working out talking about ambition, talking about sleep, talking about everything, what's going on in their lives. And it's extremely powerful. And all I can say is like, it not only changes their lives, but it also changes mine. And for that reason, it's got to be the best job in the world.
And I love that. That's so awesome. I think exactly the same way for myself. Like it's an honor to be able to do this, and it's hard sometimes, and you get emotionally connected to other people's results. But at the end of the day,
Mhm.
that's what makes you inherently a good coach and inherently human is if you have the ability to almost put yourself into their shoes and want it for them just as much, if not more, than them. And that's how they eventually succeed. So going off of that, what are some pieces of advice that you would actually have for other personal trainers in the space to help better guide their clients to succeed?
Mhm. Yeah. Just to like kind of recap, really, I think first and foremost, you got to get your communication systems on point. If you don't have a structured protocol as to how you're communicating, how often, what are the client's expectations, what is going on with check-ins, like you got to have all these things in line. If you're not tracking any data, you're just coming up with workouts on the spot. I'm sorry, you're just not going to be a great trainer. Like there needs to be a structure, there needs to be a plan, and there honestly there should most of the time be a time frame. Because when you're setting a smart goal, and if you don't know what smart goal is by now, get educated on that,
You're
please.
probably also not a good personal trainer if you don't know what a
Yeah,
smart goal
please. I
is.
mean, it's just like any good goal setting, it revolves around setting a good goal. And so all I'll say is like first get your protocols in order, understand what that means by like listing out exactly what it looks like from when someone first starts working with you to the time they reach their goal. List it all out, write it down in order, what it looks like, and make sure you account for every variable. If it's not going to plan, then there needs to be a part of the protocol. Okay, we're going off plan. Okay, we need to have a 30-minute discussion with a client. Something, and if that doesn't work, then we need to go to A, B, C, D, E. And if those don't work, then maybe the last resort is it's not a good fit. And then you'll know. But it's like if you don't have a structure or a system, then what is different about your coaching than everybody else's?
Exactly.
And yeah.
With the advent of something like AI as well now,
Oh, it's
it's
so
like
easy.
if you aren't if you aren't implementing the humanism of yourself, then why would a person not just go to chat gpt and look up a program? Because at the end of the day, communicating to them as human beings is what makes you a good coach. A
Yeah.
good coach isn't the most scientifically educated with three master's degrees and like everything, exercise physiology, exercise science. It doesn't, at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. What really truly matters is the communication you can have with a client and going off the data. Everything is a science experiment. This is a new science. Like this is a young science. So it's like even if you know everything, you almost know nothing.
Yeah.
So all you can do is know everything you can about your client and what they want to achieve.
And honestly, to your point about AI, if you're a good trainer, you're using AI to make your training better. This is like prime example. You can use AI to help you develop your systems. Like absolutely. And if there's no reason not to. I feel like if you're not utilizing AI and you're being, ignorant, then you're falling behind as well. So I won't say it's easy being a personal trainer. There's a lot of things you have to deal with, a lot of emotion, a lot of change, unpredictable schedule. It's not an easy job by any means, but it can be extremely fulfilling as long as you like take the correct steps to make it one. So if you're getting into personal training right now, I would say don't stop until you've given it your all. And honestly, if you truly give it your all, you're never gonna stop.
No, because you'll fall in love with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Um, so, Merrick, that's actually all the questions I have for you. So we'll go ahead and let you get on with your day. You're a busy man. So Thank you so much for everything.
Yeah, it's great. I got a client right now, actually.